Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Great to be with you tonight. And so much happening in this country. Friday night, a lot of people are getting ready for the weekend. I hope you have a great weekend. Man, I just hope we get closer. I guess it's a few weeks away that I just hope everybody starts playing sports instead of talking about it. I mean, I hate to be, I don't mean this to be too demeaning, but I don't really want to watch South Korean baseball anymore. I mean, I watched one or two games, a little bit of them, and I've been watching old. My sons and I have been enjoying. We've been watching on YouTube, on the TV, the big TV. You can get YouTube. We have YouTube, and you can go back and get greatest games in baseball history. That's pretty fun. But now I'm ready to see some of this stuff start playing. Although, anyway. So, and now we're all the talk about canceling seasons. You know, the Ivy League canceled their football season and other things. It's just we need to get back to normal. I mentioned it yesterday. We talked a lot about it. You know, we just got to get ourselves back to normal. It's the new normal. It's not going to be perfect, but we got to get going that direction. All right, so enough on that. Hey, later on in the program, I'm going to talk about an incredible man whose birthday is tomorrow, General Jack Singlaub. When America produces men like Jack Singlaub, he turns 99 years old tomorrow. His wife, Joan, and him, they're a wonderful couple. Their daughter, Deborah, who is a great friend, caregiver to them, and just what a daughter should be. She does a great job and is very kind. They're just wonderful people. So I'm going to tell you at the end of the program, I've got a whole segment on General Singlaub and his book, which is called Hazardous Duty. It's a memoir written, I think, in the late 80s. He has had the most extraordinary life, and I got to tell you, one quick thing. I sat on his back deck of his home down in near Nashville, Tennessee, and it was General Jack Singlaub and myself and John Schlafly and General Mike Flynn. And we sat there on the back deck and talked, moments in time that you'll never forget the feeling of sitting there watching. And at some point, John Schlafly and I were kind of bystanders because it was General Flynn, decorated general, and General Singlaub, decorated general, and they were talking. It was pretty extraordinary. So, all right, let me make sure. I want to say best greetings. One of our listeners, I got a text from her husband, not even from her, Dory, down in Charlottesville, Virginia, is a listener of the show as a podcast. She likes to get the show and link in there. So thank you for listening, Dory. Her husband is an old roommate of mine from college, a very fine fellow. So it was nice to hear that news, and I'm really excited. So thank you, Dory, for that. And thank you to all of you that are listening to the program as a podcast. You can head over to proamericareport.com, and you can see many of the segments there. The whole show is also as a podcast at theanswersandiego.com. But over at over at proamericareport.com, you can also sign up for the daily email, which goes out at 5 a.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. East Coast time. So, Dory, if you're not signed up for the daily email, you want to go over there to proamericareport.com and get signed up there. So I want to make sure to say thank you to her for listening. Okay, what you need to know today. Well, the basement Biden campaign, there's the other presidential candidates, they often talk about an incumbent president will in the old days, run a rose garden campaign, which means they just didn't leave the White House because they had this backdrop and the power and the prestige. And these were mostly described back in the day where traveling was more difficult than it is now with Air Force One and all. But you thought, well, basement Biden, he's not going to leave the basement. Well, he's starting to leave the basement. And he has to leave the basement. He's having to engage in a campaign. And although it's interesting and somewhat funny, and not really funny, it's kind of sad too, to compare his speech patterns and how he doesn't seem entirely comfortable or well-adjusted. That's a euphemistic way to say he just doesn't seem to have his old self. His fastball seems to have slowed. That's all kind of okay, I guess. I mean, it's surprising to me how the media is letting him get away with it. I know enough about sort of early onset dementia and frailty in old people to know he's just not as well as he should be or could be. But that's not necessarily going to be an issue that somebody will cover. Maybe the American people aren't going to care. Maybe that's something that they're not going to care. I don't know. But basement Biden has had to come out and embrace some positions. And so he's happily announced a position in the last 36 hours, I guess, and it is the end of the race as far as I'm concerned. It's the end of the presidential election, if you understand what he said. Joe Biden has said that when he's president, he will seek and find. He didn't say he would wait for congressional action. He said he's going to find a way to give amnesty, citizenship, to all those people who are here illegally. Now, that's at least, according to most estimates, 11 million people. But that's just a lie. Anybody you know in that sort of knows the policy area says it's probably 18 to 22 million people here illegally. They'll all be citizens, Joe Biden? That's his position. What you need to know is as this guy takes his positions, because he has to take his positions from the party that he's running in. He used to be, years ago, pro-life. He used to oppose tax dollars for abortion. In the last year, he had to come out publicly and say he absolutely supports tax dollars for abortion. Now, again, people can change their positions. You know, Donald Trump was once pro-choice. Now he's pro-life. You can see he's pro-life. His policies have been pro-life the whole time. But when he was running for president, he said, I was pro-choice in the past, I'm now pro-life. And if you didn't believe him, you might have doubted. Now he's president, he's done it. Well, Joe Biden, he was pro-life early in his career. Now he says he's pro-choice, pro-abortion. But put that one aside. Maybe you don't know what to believe, although yesterday he announced that the Little Sisters of the Poor, the nuns, who had been saying, wait a second, we don't want to have to pay for contraception in Obamacare because we think that's not fair to us. We have a religious community. We don't believe in it. It's a religious objection. And the Supreme Court said, yes, we accept your religious exception a couple days ago. Joe Biden said yesterday, when I'm president, I'll get rid of that exception. The Little Sisters of the Poor shouldn't have that exception. So these are his positions. And all of them are going to be interesting. They're all going to be important. He has said, no more charter schools. He will do everything he can to stop charter schools. Now, some of them are local, so maybe he can't do it, but the Department of Education has a lot of power. And even Obama was for charter schools, so this is more extreme than that. But back to the number one, what you need to know is the guy running for president as a Democrat is saying if he has power, he is going to seek ways to give citizenship to 22 million at most, 18 to 22 million, illegal aliens in this country. Now, remember, Obama did that with the DACA program with a stroke of his pen, executive order. So I suppose Biden may say, well, I'm going to try to get legislation or whatever, but the tradition now is he's going to do everything he can. That will change America dramatically in many ways. By the way, implicit, although we haven't heard him say it yet, implicit in his description was that he would stop the border enforcement, stop building the wall, stop securing our borders the same way. We haven't heard him say that yet, so I don't want to get too far. But what he clear as a bell made clear to America is his position is the whatever number. He says 11 million. Nobody takes that seriously. 18 million, 22 million illegal aliens that are in this country now will be citizens. Will dramatically transform our nation. He's been on the record before saying illegal aliens that are here, 22 million, should get health care paid for by the government, paid for by our tax dollars. He's been on record for that. But now he's on record. Here's what you need to know. This is why it's so important. There's only just over 110 days until the election. It's about 114 days until the election. So we're in the period where he's going to have to put some meat on the bones of the campaign. And until now, it's been 24 hours a day, Donald Trump being attacked by the media, and Donald Trump having to act. I'm not saying it's perfect either, by the way. When you're president, you have to do stuff. You have to do this and that, coronavirus, this kind of thing, all these deals, kind of work things out. So you're on the hot seat, but you're also benefiting from being the president. You have the stature of the office. So now we're going to see, and what you need to know is Joe Biden is going to have to make clear what he's actually for. And that's when we, the people, are going to get a look at, really? Because think about who is penalized by 22 million people becoming citizens and more illegal aliens coming. Low-income workers. Everybody agrees with that. It disproportionately affects lower wage workers. It drives down wages for lower wage workers. It will impact it will impact legal immigrants that are Hispanic. It will impact African American communities dramatically. That's what you need to know. This is extreme stuff. Even Obama wouldn't run on that. Even Obama wouldn't run it. Certainly Bill Clinton didn't run on that. And once those positions are known, I have to tell you, I don't know how he puts together a coalition that believes in that future. Because that's transforming America, like he said, but radically so. All right. We'll take a break. We've got some great interviews today. Coming up in a moment, Abigail Schreier, who wrote a book on transgenderism and the craze that's sweeping the nation. You're going to want to hear this interview. She's written a book. It's extraordinary. So we'll take a break and be right back. It's Ed Martin here on the Pro America Report. Be back in a moment.